For many, our skin is a blank canvas in need of decoration. Some display marks for the world to see, while others hide them, with their meanings only known to the wearer. From simple markings to altering our bone structure, what constitutes a masterpiece is up to the individual. How do you choose to transform your body? And what choices are too taboo for you? Sometimes permanent markings are not only accepted by the public, but they must be received in public in order to display commitment to one's beliefs. The island of Phuket is a tropical paradise on the Thai peninsula. But during the month of October, the locals punish their flesh in a festival of self-mutilation. To an outsider, it is a confronting and disturbing event, and yet it's known by a surprisingly harmless name: the Vegetarian Festival. This is a time of cleansing, a time to atone for the ills of the community, a time when hundreds of men and women are about to sacrifice their flesh for the 9 gods that watch over the island.
What the ritual does is selects a scapegoat.
Professor Ariel Glucklich teaches theology at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
A willing scapegoat from the community who will self-sacrifice on behalf of the interests of the community.
The chosen ones will become spirit mediums, taking on the pain and suffering of the community. To appease the gods, they will first go into a trance, then skewer their flesh with objects small and large. The gods will test their endurance of pain. This man has passed that test many times before, and now he is about to test the limits of pain once more. At dawn, Gokao will invite the gods to possess his body. He has volunteered to be their scapegoat. However, he will not sacrifice his flesh with skewers through his face. Gokao will attack himself with his razor-sharp sword. His faith is etched on his back.
Sometimes scars are sort of the byproduct, a result of a ritual that really has more meaning in the experience, in the moment.
Professor Victoria Pitts-Taylor specializes in body modification at Queens College, City University in New York.
The scars that they wear forever afterwards become badges of that experience. They just sort of display forever their role in that moment.
Every year that I have done it, I have been afraid that I will get hurt. But when I get into a trance, I don't know what's happening.
Gokao is about to face his fears once more. The spirit mediums arrive at the shrine. They have abstained from meat, alcohol, and sex for weeks to purify their bodies for this day. Now they are trying to contain their fear. The spirit mediums enter a trance. They believe the god that possesses them will control their every move for the duration of the festival, allowing them to endure the pain. Percussion bands help incite an altered state. Once the god takes possession, the men and women beat on the altar to announce, "I am ready." Scores of spirit mediums pour out of the shrine. They will march to the sea and back, a distance of 5 miles, with temperatures in the 90s. The people of Phuket line the streets to witness their suffering they endure on behalf of the whole community. Among those carrying weapons is Gokao. An hour into the journey, he breaks into a frenzied attack on himself. He bleeds heavily, and there is still a long way to go. Minutes later, another man begins slicing his own tongue with an axe. Despite this grotesque spectacle, the atmosphere is festive.
It's a celebration, really. And so that seems like a paradox. You have the pain, but you have the celebration as well.
The objects chosen by the scapegoats for the piercing are symbolic of the weapons held by these Chinese idols. The gods are warlike in appearance. The masochists become their soldiers. However, strict tradition is making way for what is now a competition of self-mutilation. These soldiers of the gods now use tree branches, chair legs, umbrellas. They compete for the favor from the gods by stretching the limits of their own flesh. 4 hours later, and the spirit mediums are finally returning to the shrine, exhausted. Assistants carefully remove the impaling objects to stem the bleeding. Some walk away nursing open gashes, but most appear relatively unharmed by the experience. Inside the shrine, they beat on the altar to bring their ordeal to an end. The gods have now left their broken bodies. And while their wounds will most likely heal, they will forever be left with the memories of their test of faith. Just as some prove themselves to God, others must prove themselves to their community. These public displays often mark a rite of passage. These 12 boys in the remote village of Yamak in Papua New Guinea are about to be cut to ribbons with razor blades. Tribesmen will slice each boy's skin up to 1,000 times to create a pattern of scars. The Latmo people believe humans were created by an ancestral crocodile, and the incisions resemble the teeth marks of the giant reptile. It's a brutal rite of passage that's all part of becoming a man. 18-year-old Louis Bala can only guess what's in store for him.
I'm not really sure what will happen when I go inside the man house. No matter what happens, I will be strong and I will go through it.
The elders use the boys' own imagination to frighten them.
They're obviously scared. They're nervous. They don't know what's going to happen to them.
Anthropologist Sandra Welkering specializes in the tribes of Papua New Guinea.
They also know that they are not going to see their family, their mothers, their younger sisters, their younger brothers, for a very long time.
The boys line up on a long log, which represents the mythical crocodile. The older men leapfrog the boys, rubbing their genitals on their heads. It's a prolonged and very public humiliation. Latmo culture demands boys undergo a tough lesson in respect before the rise to manhood. Once the young initiate's pride has been compromised to nothing, the ritualistic scarring begins. For each boy, this means 2 hours of razors cutting into their chests, backs, arms, legs, and buttocks, all with no anesthetic. The elders start by cutting around the nipple of each boy. These are the first of the 1,000 cuts, in a process that will eventually transform this smooth young skin into a crocodile hide. At one time, these deep incisions would have been made with bamboo shards. Today, modern razor blades cut cleaner and deeper. And the wider the wound, the better the scar. If the wounds heal successfully, the skin will rise and scar tissue will harden. Like many initiations, the endurance of pain is part of the passage into manhood. Male members of the boy's immediate family are close by for support. The cutters are skilled and careful. They've all been through this themselves and are determined to end the ordeal as soon as possible. For one young man, the pain is almost too much to bear. But there's no running away. The young boy's agony continues into a second hour. Every cut as painful as the first. There's a real chance that he may go into shock from the blood loss and the trauma. Elders wash away the blood with dirty, wet sponges. With so much blood being spilt, there's a possibility of infection. But everyone is aware of the risks, and each boy has his own razor blades for the cutting. After 2 grueling hours, this stage of the initiation is finally over. Feathers dipped in palm oil brush the raw wounds to soothe the stinging. Right now, it's the only contact these young men can stand. Simply finding a position to lie down is excruciating, their only relief is to lie motionless. Lewis and the others will spend days like this.
Now that it's done, it hurts to sit down. When you lie down to sleep, your chest and your belly hurt.
The boys can't rest on their wounds because they won't heal properly. The cuts are filled with clay and ashes to ensure they heal as raised scars, resembling crocodile scales. But that will take about 2 months.
Most boys do want to do the initiation. It's not about looking beautiful, it's an initiation process. It's about becoming part of the community, and it's about becoming a real civic man.
Just 3 days ago, 18-year-old Lewis was just a boy. But the hardest part of his journey into manhood is now over. The marks of the crocodile are only skin deep, but each of these boys has undergone a profound transformation. Could you endure the intense pain of cutting or burning to make meaningful marks on your own body? When Taboo returns. What happens when tattoos are not extreme enough? Scarification is a painful process that can include slicing or burning the body. But despite the painful price, some use these marks to help define their identity. In Melbourne, Australia, Todd Rowbottom is about to do something extreme to his body, and it's not the first time. Todd's chest already bears a tattooed imprint of his fiancée Nancy's hand as a sign of his devotion to her.
I like the fact that I can kind of put my hand on it and it fits, which is kind of nice. I suppose it worries me occasionally, thinking if something goes wrong, then you're marked by me forever.
For their upcoming wedding, Todd wants to have Nancy's other hand etched into the other side of his chest with a scalpel forming a scar.
The kind of body modification we're talking about is definitely violating some Western taboos. When we make choices to modify our bodies in permanent ways, we really are trying to establish a commitment that might be for life. Of course, it doesn't always work out that way.
Ready to rock? Yeah.
Todd's friend, Peter, will do the cutting. He has no formal qualifications. Experience teaches him how wide to cut and how much discomfort he can inflict on Todd. A mild topical anesthetic is Todd's only pain suppressant. Scarification is more extreme and more dangerous than tattooing or piercing. If the work is precise and the wound heals cleanly, Todd's scar tissue will raise up over the next few weeks, forming thick keloid scarring. There's no guarantee the skin will heal with the intended effect. It's risky, potentially infectious, and painful. So what's the payoff for Todd?
You know, I've got a couple of different tattoos that have been inspired by Nancy, and this is now going to be a scarification that's been inspired by Nancy.
You see an escalation of that kind of symbolic commitment. It's escalated because it's considered more socially deviant. Of course, it also permanently marks the body.
3 months of healing pass, and here is the result.
There it is there. So it's quite textured, like that's nice and raised. The outline's quite strong. The engagement ring is quite bold. I mean, if you feel that, you know, you feel a big lump.
Nancy Louise Prince.
Nancy Louise.
But Todd still has one more thing he wants to do to cement his bond with Nancy.
To have and to hold.
From this day forward.
Todd sees the carving of a handprint into his flesh as no more extreme in his expression of love than the exchanging of rings in front of friends and family. Both are unequivocal signs of his commitment and devotion for the one with whom he intends spending the rest of his life. While scarification can often be used to connect yourself to others, it's also a powerful way to declare your individuality. It's winter in Toronto, Canada, and the temperature is below freezing. But soon, 27-year-old bike courier and artist Joyce Lau will experience the heat of an electrical current applied directly into her skin. She's part of an extreme group, a subculture whose members call themselves body modifiers. While nearly 1 in 6 Americans have a tattoo or a body piercing, body modifiers push the boundaries of body art, implanting objects under their skin, splitting their tongues, stretching their earlobes, and in one of the most painful acts of all, scarring their bodies with scorching hot metal. Why would anyone willingly subject themselves to this? What sort of person pays for pain? Joyce sees her body as a human canvas. Thin red scars on her arms are the result of body cutting, where a scalpel cuts deep into flesh to carve bloody designs. But tomorrow, Joyce will take herself further than she's ever gone before. A professional brander will scorch her skin with red-hot metal. Not once, but repeatedly, to form an indelible design. Medically speaking, every strike produces a third-degree burn. The branding tool kills layers of skin and nerves on contact. People heal differently, but if all goes well, the wound will form a neat scar.
Here we go again, my friend.
They sort of play with the body in ways that are absolutely defy our expectations for what bodies are supposed to do.
For Joyce, branding is not just about defying a taboo. For her, branding signals an exciting new phase in her life.
Branding's kind of like turning over a new leaf. It's like turning over a new chapter. Yeah, I'm excited. Just can't wait to see the final product. I'm not excited about the pain part of it, so I've been trying not to think about that. I'm more nervous about the smell of the burning skin.
Blair McLean is a well-known brander in Toronto. He's about to give Joyce her first burn.
It'll hurt good. Okay, you ready to come back?
As a first-timer, there's no telling how she'll react when her skin begins to burn.
Okay there, Joyce. So basically the bike's going to be facing outwards.
Nice.
And then try to stand so you're really...
Of all the designs available to her, Joyce, the courier, chooses to mark her identity with a line drawing of a bicycle. Blair positions the stencil outline, carefully covering 6 inches of Joyce's calf.
I wish I could just fast forward so I just get the whole ordeal over with.
Okay there, Joyce.
Okay, ready.
So we'll do a 1, and then a 2, and then a 3. Forward.
As the tool touches Joyce's leg, the electric current vaporizes the moisture in her skin, leaving a charred brown mark, the mark of a third-degree burn.
It is weird because you hear it. Oh, it does hurt. Some parts I'm trying not to wince.
Nevertheless, as the burning continues over 30 minutes, Joyce keeps her cool.
Hey, guess what, Joyce? We're done.
Yay!
How was that?
Good, good.
The tissue damage is done, but the artwork will not be ready until the wound heals to a scar in a few weeks.
I don't see it as harming skin. My skin, I'm adding like more decoration to it. It's kind of like makeup almost, I feel. But then, just adding your personal touch to it. It's not really damaging it.
It might not be everyone's idea of art, but that's not the point.
And I think the message is, I own my body, I want to do something creative with it, and I don't mind that you find it offensive.
In most cultures, tattoos are fairly accepted, as are the rules that establish the social guidelines for a tattoo. But there are always those who push social norms. This is the land of the long white cloud, Aotearoa. That was the name given to New Zealand by its indigenous Maori people. But when white settlers arrived in the early 1800s, the name of the island wasn't the only thing they changed. They found some Maori traditions disturbing and tried to eradicate them. Today, centuries later, Kiri Tamahiri has decided to embrace one of those taboo traditions.
I am prepared for negative perceptions, and I am prepared for negative things, but I am also hoping for positive responses.
She wants to get a tattoo connecting her to her cultural past, but it will not be a discrete emblem on her arm or torso. She will permanently mark her entire chin and lips with the traditional Maori moko tattoo. The moko, which dates back 1,000 years, was once an art form that members of the society wore. But after the British colonized New Zealand, some Christian missionaries described it as the devil's art, and tattoos, including the moko, were banned by the British. Today, though no longer banned, there are negative connotations attached to the facial tattoo, especially among the Pākehā, or European culture in New Zealand.
There's still the stigma associated with it, that you're being anti-Pākehā, you're being anti-governmental, you're aligning yourself with certain factions and activism.
Dr. Nerino Ellis lectures in art history at the University of Auckland.
In cities still there remains many Pākehā who feel, and many Māori as well, who feel when they look at it that it's associated with violence.
Maori tradition dictates that the painful tattooing will not be suffered alone. Kiri has flown to the seaside town of Gisborne with her boyfriend Rawiri. They meet up with her cousins Priscilla and Rob, who already have their marks of identity. They arrive at the studio where the first step of the painstaking process will begin. Mark is a Moko master. He draws the outline of Kiri's tattoo on her chin. Once completed, Kiri will have one last chance to change her mind.
I just can't wait to get it over and done with. I see the finished product. I just can't wait because it looks lovely.
Kiri approves the design. Now she braces herself for the pain. 3 hours of it. The needle Mark uses punctures Kiri's face up to 3,000 times a minute. After 2 long hours, most of the Moko is a finished work of art, but the most painful part of all is still to come. Just like Priscilla, Kiri will have the tattooist's ink injected directly into her lips, one of the most sensitive areas of the human body. But Kiri thinks it's worth the pain.
I think it's a beautiful art form, and it looks lovely on a Māori woman. And it's also about strengthening my cultural identity, and by doing that, hopefully will influence others and help strengthen theirs as well.
Once the arduous tattooing process is complete, Kiri could not be happier with the results. For some, tattoos are a way to embrace the past, while for others, the marks guarantee a future. In the African country of Benin, facial tattoos are not only accepted, but encouraged. Girls in the Fulani tribe are given the traditional marking at an early age. 8-year-old Binyo is about to receive a painful facial tattoo as the next step in her progression to womanhood and then marriage. Like all young girls of the tribe, she wears makeup to add to her juru, or beauty.
I'm very happy because my parents, everyone does this. It is tradition. It is to make myself prettier.
For as long as elders in the tribe can remember, Fulani have used facial tattoos to distinguish themselves from other tribes. Now, it's Binyo's turn. First, the tattooist prepares the ink, then paints the design onto Binyo's skin. In this Fulani tattoo, the design of 1 line and 3 dots has special meaning. They represent the 3 stones of the cooking hearth, the focal point of the household. The tattooist's needle is a test of Binyo's bravery. If Binyo shows pain, she will be shamed, and the tattooing, her proof of womanhood, could be delayed until she is older.
Her bravery is part of the point of the ritual. In a sense, it's a symbolic statement that she's ready for her next phase in life.
Binyo's blood mixes with the ink as the tattooist pricks her skin with a needle, again and again. Each jab is a sharp, painful shock. After 30 long minutes, Binyo's test is finally over. She has proven her courage and taken her first step to becoming a Fulani woman. She proudly shows off her designs, each one etched in pain to her young friends.
They thought I was going to cry, and I didn't cry. And look at me, I am pretty.
While many tattoos are meant to be viewed by the public, some are meant to stay hidden. Every big city has a dark underbelly, a criminal counterculture that make their own rules. The Yakuza are the Japanese version of the mafia. According to locals, they have their hands in everything from prostitution to drugs to extortion.
I think that basically they have a bad image. They're criminals.
Jeff Kingston is director of Asian Studies at Temple University, Tokyo.
The Yakuza are feared because of their violence.
Yakuza gangsters are easily identified by their spectacular and extreme full-body tattoos, known as horomono. These elaborate designs cost their wearers years of pain and tens of thousands of dollars. The painful horomono tattoo tests potential members' commitment, perseverance, and strength of character. Working with a traditional needle is meticulous and painful. It will take not weeks or months, but years before the design is complete. The traditional horomono needle is a particularly brutal instrument, made up of many razor-sharp needles. Throughout Japanese history, tattoos were repeatedly outlawed. So the Yakuza created one that couldn't be seen. Their tattoos always stop at the wrist and the ankle. The face is never marked, and a strip of bare skin is left down the middle of the chest. That's because the ancestors of these men once wore kimonos, so the horomono was designed to be covered by the fall of the fabric. Today, the gangster's suit does the same job. But the trouble with an indelible mark of identity is that if you change inside, you still appear the same to others on the outside. Hiroyuki Suzuki lived for nearly 2 decades as a Yakuza member. When he tried to leave, his inked body betrayed him.
I really regretted having a tattoo when I ran away from the Yakuza.
Hiroyuki fled for his life after being marked with a death warrant for gambling away the mob's profits. Hiroyuki had a complete change of identity after renouncing life as a Yakuza. Hiroyuki Suzuki is now a minister in the Baptist Church. But he can't remove the past that is ingrained on his skin. His death warrant has never been lifted. Until his dying day, he will forever be a marked man. Modifying your body to meet a beauty ideal is universal, but the definition of beauty changes from culture to culture. So what interpretation of beauty would lead these women to extend their necks to physical extremes? On the remote Thai-Burmese border, the hill tribe known as the Kayan have little of monetary value. But even though they're poor, the women carry one item of great value: their brass neck rings. To the outside world, they are known as the long necks, wearers of shining rings of brass that disfigure and deform the bodies of those who wear them.
Feeling pain and feeling some discomfort is part of living.
Ma Nang, the tribe matriarch, is one of the longest of the long necks. Her coil is long enough to form 25 concentric rings over 12 inches high. The heavy brass coils are fashioned from solid brass rods. Neck pieces can weigh up to 22 pounds, the same as a standard car tire. Ma Nang has felt the weight of hers for 46 years, and even though she and the Kayan women are known as long necks, their coils do not actually extend the spine. An initial coil of about 5 rings, weighing nearly 4.5 pounds, presses down on the shoulders. As each new coil is added, the extra weight compresses the body, pushing the clavicle down, squeezing and flattening the ribs until the shoulders fall away, giving the appearance of an elongated neck. Today, 19-year-old Ma Blaine has come to Ma Nang, complaining of discomfort with her heavy 16-ring brass coil. Ma Nang will adjust and refit it for her. She hasn't seen her own neck in over 5 years and wonders what she will find.
I haven't seen my neck for a long time. Today is a big occasion, and I'm very excited.
When young girls first put on the rings, they experience pain. Many cannot sleep. The discomfort can last for days. As the children grow, every 3 to 4 years, more brass spirals are added. It may look brutal on someone so young. The coils chafe. Children can get infected from scratches or become allergic to the brass itself.
When we look at something like Thai neck rings, for example, we think that that's so drastic or so extreme. Well, it's permanent, or it really transforms the shape of the shoulders and the neck. It looks so bizarre, so different to us. And really, those practices aren't any different than the practices that we engage in every day, except that they violate our body ideals.
Cayenne women have worn their brass rings for nearly 1,000 years. And according to legend, the neck pieces are as old as the Cayenne people themselves. Traditionally, the single brass coil only comes off during childbirth, a doctor's visit, or if the woman is caught committing adultery. There are stories of women being asphyxiated when their neck piece was removed, their weakened muscles unable to support the head.
Contrary to some of the beliefs, it doesn't actually support the head. So it's not so tight that it isn't allowing the neck a lot of movement.
Lorna McMillan studies anthropology and spent 5 months living with the Cayenne.
The women can put their hands down and clean and reach their skin and all of that. So it's not actually something that's sort of gripping them in any way.
Now, for the first time since she was a young girl, Ma Blaine is about to find out just how much the neck piece has changed her body. Brass is a tough metal. It takes village elder Ma Nang nearly an hour to loosen it by hand. Finally, the job is done. It's the moment Ma Blaine's been waiting for.
Look at my neck. What does it look like? Is it white or black?
Ma Blaine's neck and shoulders are scarred from where the heavy rings have gouged and dug into her flesh. Her neck feels very light without the weight. Ma Blaine wants to show her bare neck to her friends, but feels so strange with it naked that she soon covers it with a scarf before she goes outside. The rare sight of Ma Blaine's exposed neck fascinates her friends. But Ma Blaine is glad when it's time for Ma Nang to refit her rings, even though it may be years, even decades, before she takes them off again. How far would you go to stand out? Some transform their bodies into creatures of their own design. While many alter their bodies to embrace their cultures, others undergo extreme body transformations as artistic expression or to stand out. In Sao Paulo, Brazil's largest city, Priscilla D'Avenzo has already had herself pierced, tattooed, and scarred multiple times. And this afternoon, she's planning to undergo something even more radical. She's going to have metal studs implanted in her chest. Priscilla is an artist. For much of her work, she has chosen to use her own body as her canvas. She has gone so far as to alter her body permanently to resemble another creature, a cow.
I don't want to be a human being because I don't think they think well. I want to be a cow because their lifestyle is better than the human being.
Today, Priscilla is a flesh and blood art exhibit. In addition to the cow markings, she has 2 large brands on her back and numerous other tattoos of phrases that have special meaning to her. For her latest art project, Priscilla has chosen steel studs that will pop through her skin just below her collarbone, like buttons on a robot.
I am going to create the illusion that I'm inserting machine parts into my body. I want to do it on my chest because it's a very visible place.
The procedure is not just painful, it's complicated. Body piercer Andre Fernandez begins by making just one small incision in Priscilla's chest. But then, he must carve a channel to the spot where the studs will appear. Otherwise, they may try to work themselves back through the opening. It's a lot to endure for the sake of art. Andre works for 20 minutes before he's ready to install the first implant. And this, too, is a slow process. Once the first implant is in place, Andre can work more quickly. She must monitor her new modifications closely. Infection is always a danger. And in the worst cases, implants have been known to burrow into the body, sometimes all the way to the bone.
Right now, I'm happy.
But no matter the risks, Priscilla is confident this latest artwork will prove worth it. Body modifiers form their own community. But even among them, this man stands out as a trailblazer. From head-to-toe tattoos, to webbed feet, to scaly arms, to eyebrow implants, and to green eyelids. He's even got sharpened teeth and a forked tongue. Once a normal-looking guy, 35-year-old Eric Sprague has gone to great lengths to radically transform his body. He's the lizard man, an outcast by design. These days, Austin, Texas is where Eric makes his home. He likes it because it's a forgiving place to be different. But he still stands out like a sore thumb.
It's a very powerful biological signal to see a body that's different from ours.
Carolyn Marvin is professor of communications at the University of Pennsylvania.
Body modification is such a public thing. We all get to see it. You signal for all the world to know that in your body, you know you are outside the group.
700 hours of tattooing later, there's no going back. Eric's a lizard for life, and he has to navigate the real world, just like the rest of us.
I'm not shy. I don't skulk around and not let people see me. And like, if I have to go get a gallon of milk, I go get a gallon of milk.
Eric's not surprised by others' reactions. His decision to change his body may have been a personal one, but it was also a calculated message to others.
All of us feel that when we do things to our bodies, we're expressing who we are as individuals, but we rarely are. Of course, becoming a body modifier suggests that one is part of a group, right? And then one is sort of joining a whole lot of other people who are also getting body marks in order to express their distance from the culture.
For the members of this modification community, Eric continues to be a trailblazer. While at a tattoo convention, Eric has decided to continue his transformation. This time, his lips will be turned from pink to green, just like the rest of his face.
I mean, I've locked myself into something true, but I put a lot of thought and consideration into what I'm doing with my body and the direction I'm taking my life.
We all choose how to mark our bodies. For some, the masterpiece is simple and understated, while others find their self-expression through more radical transformations. What motivates the marks you wear for life?